Thanks, guys. So like you said, my name is Leigh Ann. I graduated in May of 2012 from here. I was a business management major with a minor in entrepreneurial studies, probably like most of you guys. And when I was a senior, I was taking Entrepreneurship 301 or one of those, the first entrepreneurship classes, and we were challenged to write a business plan for a business we would really want to start. Now, since most of us were seniors, we all knew what we were going to do after, or at least knew what kind of jobs we were going to go out and get. I did not. I was a management major and just figured I'd go into food service somewhere, you know, project management or food service management, something like that. But for this class, I decided to start a food cart. And this is going to sound really lame, but when me and my roommates were kind of hanging out, we would try to come up with like funny food truck names, because that's like a big part of the food truck thing. So there's a few called, there's one called like Truck Norris, the Big Gay Ice Cream Truck, Bacon, like, there's a whole bunch of different ones. So we would try to come up with funny names, and it sort of went into this class that I was taking. And my roommate was actually the one who came up with I Don't Give a Fork. So the next class that we had, it was every Monday, we had to get in front of the class. It was Matt Terrell's class. I don't know if you guys have ever had him as a professor. I got up in front of the class and gave my idea, and everyone started laughing, and I was like, you know what, this might actually work. Like, if for the name alone, it gets people laughing and interested. So I had a few people on my team, started running a business plan, and I slowly find out that the other people in my group actually have jobs or are still a junior, so they weren't actually looking for jobs yet. So I was the only one really interested in what we were doing. And then Matt told me that I should participate in the business idea pitch that November. So it was only about a month after I'd started this whole thing. Didn't have a logo, only had an idea, like barely had anything going. And I ended up tying for first place in this competition with a cancer research team that had been working on their idea for 5 years or 10 years or something crazy like that, that I was put on this like same level as this cancer research team, which is so awesome. So I won $1,000, which I guess depending on what you're working on can be a lot or can be not a lot, ended up not being a lot. But it was enough to make business cards, buy a domain name, print out stickers and t-shirts, and do things that most startups want to do but don't want to invest their precious like capital in doing. So I do all this stuff, and people are really now on board. And I figure, what the hell? I don't have a job. I'm going to start a food truck or food cart or whatever it was at the time. So I go on Craigslist, like most people do, and bought a food cart and managed to not get murdered in the process. And you know, didn't know how to hitch a food cart to a car, didn't even have a car with a hitch on it, ended up buying like one of those huge creepy vans with like no back window and like the weird side doors, and there's like a DVD player bed in the middle, which is really weird. And looking back, I probably should have gotten murdered for all of this. But we ended up driving it home. I convinced my dad to do it. He's also never driven anything like this. And it sits in my parents' driveway for 6 months. Meanwhile, I'm developing recipes, because I don't have any food background. I don't have any restaurant background. I have playing around with my roommates and making food in my kitchen every Friday back in college, and I have, you know, my parents teaching me how to cook when I was really young, but I don't have any like working in the back of the kitchen, line cook kind of experience. Up until that point, I worked in cafes, ice cream shops, coffee shops, stuff like that. Nothing with like real restaurant background. So during that 6 months, I ended up painting the food cart, you know, replacing a whole bunch of stuff. And this sort of leads me into, I guess, if I'm going to start giving advice, my first bit of advice, which is if you think you're going to spend a certain amount of money, tack on like 20% of what that is, because you're going to end up spending way more than you thought you were, because maybe the front window of your van is going to crack, and then it's not going to start, and then your parents are really going to want it out of their driveway, but you can't get it out because it's broken, and then you need to spend $1,000 to repair it. Or that might just happen to me. But anyway, the point is, it was like a crazy year. I was trying to graduate, which I did on time, which was awesome. And then I also had a job working as a manager at the U Dairy Creamery down in South College. Awesome stuff. You guys should go there. And also my non-job job, which was the food truck at the time. So that sort of leads me into, over the summer, still trying to get everything together. And I just do it. I decide to get a food purveyor and get all the stuff I need to do, and I opened for the first time on September 17th, 2012. So it has been just over a year that I've been open, which is really exciting because, I'm sure a lot of facts are thrown at you guys about how, X amount of startups fail in their first year or 2 years or 5 years or whatever. So I have the 1 year under my belt, which is awesome. And that's sort of my background, I guess. And that's pretty much all I had prepared for today. So if anyone wants to ask any questions, we can go from there, which would be great. Ben?
How hard is it to get the license to be able to serve food legally?
Yeah, I guess that's pretty important. Well, I'm technically not on campus, and I'm not allowed to be on campus, and I'm not allowed to be on City of Newark property. So there's a big chunk of Delaware that I'm not allowed to be on. What ended up happening is I made a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, long paper trail, to try to figure out how I could be where I ended up, which is in the Delaware Tire Center on South College Ave, Route 896, right across the street from the stadium. So not a lot of people are really down there unless they're ag students or going to the football games, but there are a lot of locals. So that's how I chose that area, and also from experience working at the creamery, I knew there wasn't really any food down there at all. People were calling and getting food delivered all the time, and nobody was venturing out anywhere to go buy food because there was no place to go buy it. So anyway, so I chose someplace, I knew I wanted to be someplace in that area. Ruled out the University of Delaware, ruled out any sidewalk space because it's City of Newark, and found out through research and talking to people that if I was on private property, they really couldn't do anything about it. I could do whatever I wanted, selling food-wise. And all I needed was a health permit, a Delaware business permit, and that was basically it. Didn't need anything from the City of Newark or the school or anything. So that's how I ended up being where I am. Ultimately, not that difficult in getting the permit. I have a contract with the Delaware Tire Center owners, and I pay them rent every month. And I pay on time, and they're cool, and we kind of just don't really talk about it. So it ended up working out pretty well. There's not a ton of spaces down there that are kind of, I guess, up for grabs. I know that there's another food truck that just kind of got in on the scene in the Patterson Schwartz parking lot, which is further away from the school, like way down towards 95, like past the Wells Fargo and everything. And but they're only there for football games. But the point is, if you're on private property, as long as you get permission from whoever owns the property, you're good to go, within reason. So, question? Yes.
Do you cook the food and not really business, or do you have somebody who cooks?
I do everything. I'm the sole owner, and I don't really have any official employees. Monday through Friday, I work 8 a.m. to 3:30, and my business is pretty dispersed over the hours, so I'm cool by myself, just serving and taking money and doing all that. For big events, which is actually now more towards what I'm going into, I don't have any official employees yet, but I get my boyfriend and my old college roommates and my friends from home to come, and I pretty much just pay them to help me out for now. They're like my volunteers, paid volunteers. And I think eventually I will have to start hiring real employees just because I've been getting so busy lately and for big events, and I can't always rely on people that have other jobs. So for right now, I'm a one-man band, but eventually I'll start getting other people. Yes?
What are some of the main items on your menu? What are made up of?
Menu. When I first started, I wanted to do like traditional food with a twist. And so my most popular sandwich is the mac and cheesesteak. It's a Philly cheesesteak with onions and homemade macaroni and cheese mixed in. And then I do other things like lighter options. I have a turkey BLT, which I actually have today, with Parmesan peppercorn mayo. I do, there's one that's also here today. It's ham, Vermont white cheddar, zesty honey mustard, and applesauce. And applesauce is like coleslaw with apples and brown sugar in it. It's pretty good. That's my favorite sandwich. And then I have some other basic things. I do burgers, and basically I don't do hot dogs. I get really mad when people ask me for hot dogs. Because the only reason they ask is because they assume, just based on what the food cart looks like, that I have hot dogs. I don't actually get mad at my customers, but it's frustrating because that's like the one question I hear all the time. And then you might ask me why I don't just sell hot dogs. And my reasoning is because, so you buy a hot dog in the bun in the little container that it comes in, and you buy it for, let's say 20, 25 cents total, but you sell it for like $1 or $2, like no one's going to buy a hot dog for more than $1.50 or $2, especially without anything on it. So my profit margin is not that much, but if I buy all the ingredients for a normal size sandwich and I spend $1 and a lot more money off of one customer, so that sounds like I just really want to make a lot of money. But it makes more sense because people sometimes will come and try to get a hot dog, and I'll tell them no, and they'll get a hamburger instead. So it actually works out in my favor. So that's my food, I guess. Yes?
How do you attract and keep your clientele, your customers?
At first, I was doing a lot of advertising like within the school, trying to get a lot of students, and then since I graduated in 2012, most of the people that I know are now gone. So at first it was a lot of word of mouth, like people who I knew would tell other people, and professors that I had would tell other professors or their class of students, and I would get people to come over. And now I really just have like a good solid base of regular customers. And when I first opened, I was expecting to be super busy Monday through Friday, and that was going to be it. I was going to work 5 days a week, and then I was going to have weekends off, and that was going to be that. But when I opened, I started getting asked to do events, and I think even though there are other food carts and food trucks that have been doing it for a little bit longer than I have, I was really, I guess, in on like the whole social media thing. So I was like really there with Facebook. If you Google food carts in Delaware, I'm one of the first ones to pop up, if not the first one. And this was before I'd even opened. I was all, over. I had a lot of articles written about it and stuff like that. So when people started seeing that, they asked me to do events, and I was like, why not, So now I do events almost every weekend, if not multiple times per weekend. And then I get a lot of people from there, especially if it's a local event, will come over during the day. I have really limited hours, so it's really tough for a lot of my customers, my event customers, to come to my normal hours. But somehow it ends up working, which is interesting. In the back.
How do you see your business in 3 years down the road?
In 3 years? Well, I want a real food truck. I don't know if you guys have seen. What I have right now looks almost literally like a shed on wheels, which is good for now. But what I really want is to expand, not in the terms of like having 5 trucks flying all over Delaware, but I want to expand in terms of like taking on bigger events. So right now, I have a really tiny fridge, I have a really tiny freezer. I work out of coolers a lot because I have such limited space, especially for big events. Like Monday through Friday, it's not a big deal, but events is really where I make most of my money, just because it's like such a crazy amount of volume and things like that. And I'll give you a few examples in a minute, but what I want, I guess, in 3 years is to have like a real food truck, like something you would see on Food Truck Wars. Partially for the aesthetics, that's what people are expecting when they hear food truck, and then you roll up in your little food cart and people are not disappointed, but it's not exactly what they're expecting. And from there, I would like to get possibly another one with the I Don't Give a Fork name. I've been asked to do events, like people have tried to book me on the same day, and even now I'm getting asked to do events. Like I'm being asked to do an event in May. I was asked to do 2 things this upcoming May, which is still like, I can't even think about May right now. So it's just crazy how people are thinking so far in advance. I'm getting booked so quickly. So what I want is 1 or 2 trucks in 3 years. That way I can do all the events that I'm asked to do and possibly move on to another state, which would be really, really cool. But I don't want to move too fast, because then that's where you lose your customers if you're going too fast, I think. So I just want to build up what I have now and have like a real set model and then go from there. Yes.
What kind of big events are being planned right now in the company?
For the future, or like what have I done? I'll talk about both. So in the past, the first big event that I did was the breast cancer walk in Wilmington. It was the Making Strides Against Breast Cancer, or for breast cancer. And it was last October, and that was like the biggest thing I had done. And it was just like, as soon as we got there, it was like line until everyone was gone. It was crazy. And we, since then, I've learned that for big events like that, I need to cut my menu down like a lot. I had a full menu that day, so it was like more hectic than you could possibly imagine, because someone wants breakfast, and then someone else wants lunch, and like you have all this stuff. And looking in the cart, I have like it's called a bain marie. It's like a little fridge, and it kind of has a pop-up thing. I'm not explaining this very well, but you put all your food like in the top section, and then there's a refrigerator underneath. So it's really easy if you're doing 5 sandwiches, because you can have everything within arm's reach. But if you have a full menu, you have to go into the freezer, then go into the fridge, then go into the other fridge, and it's not all as quick, and you can't get through a line, and then people leave the line because they don't want to wait, stuff like that. So that was the first thing I ever did, and they actually rebooked me, and I just did it again last year. Something else I've done, one of my favorite events was I did the Wilmington Kennel Club agility trials. So when you think of like the dogs jumping through the hoops and over the fences and all this stuff, I did that. That was a lot of fun because the puppies were adorable. And it was a 2-day event last May, and they just booked me again. I did it at the beginning of October, I think, so which is cool because I'm getting rebooked for stuff I've done, which is a good sign. And what else have I done? I did Firefly Music Festival I was at. So that was really crazy because that had 60,000 people. And I did not think I was going to be able to do it. I was like half in tears like for most of June. And then I did it, and it was crazy. And we brought in a lot of money because, you jack your prices up a little bit. And just because of sheer volume, that weekend we sold 2,000 sandwiches, 995 of which were mac and cheese steaks out of 6 or 7 total sandwiches that we sold that entire weekend. So that was like crazy. I felt like I went from 0 to 60 within I wasn't even open a year yet. It was June, and I had opened in September. So they had actually asked me to do it the year before, Firefly, and I didn't even have, I didn't have any health permits or anything yet. I don't know how they found me, but I had to decline, and then got asked to do it again for 2013. So that was a lot of fun. And I got to go see a band during the slow time, which was like the only slow time, which was fun. And what do I have coming up? I was asked to do, and they pay like per person, whether the person eats or not, 800 hot dogs and 800 hamburgers. And we were there for like 12 hours. It was crazy. They actually Discover Card, as a company, spent $15,000 on this Employee Appreciation Day. They had skee ball and basketball and like those water guns that you see at amusement parks, and they had funnel cake, which I didn't provide, but I did the hamburgers and hot dogs. It was a lot of fun. It was a really long day, but it was definitely worth it. So I'm doing something like that next month, or at the end of this month, for AT&T. So which is cool because the word's getting around that I do stuff like that, and it's really lucrative actually to do things like that because it's a lot of people. The volume is really important because you can sell like 10 sandwiches and make $100 or something, but it's better if you sell for slightly less and you sell 400 sandwiches, which is awesome. I'm rambling. Any other questions? Yes.
I know you said UD in the city of Newark would be on the property.
Yeah.
Do you know how the dumpling cart does it?
Yeah, so I guess in however the city of Newark is set up, they had 2 spaces available. The reason they're in a cart that small is because that is all they are allowed to be in. And I don't know if you guys know Benny on Main Street. I don't know if he's still there. I think he is. I see a lot of nods. He is also in a teeny little cart. And mine's 3, while mine's not big, it's 3 times the size of what Benny's in. And the same thing with the dumpling cart. So honestly, they started about, I guess, 3 years ago. They just found out that the city of Newark was going to let them do it. I can't do it because of the size, and I wouldn't even want to downsize even if I could, just because I found like my own little niche doing events and big things like that, like made-to-order food, stuff like that. So they actually got really lucky. There might be one more spot up for grabs, but I'm not 100% sure. And I don't really know actually all the details about how that happened with the city of Newark, but that's all I know really. Yes.
Would you want to, do you have any plans to move any closer to campus, like private property?
I was asked by a business on Cleveland if I wanted to be in their parking lot, which I guess is not really closer to campus, but closer to where students are walking. And I've thought about it, but I'd sort of have to redo everything because I'm realizing, or I guess I've known for a while, that there are a ton of students at the University of Delaware, and like nobody knows who I am, I guess, just because I have my regulars, and then I have a lot of professors, but I don't get any new people because no one who's up on main campus really has any reason to go down to the ag school or that area. So I would like to get closer to campus. It's just really, really difficult depending on, it's just really hard because there's not a lot of private property that's not already owned by a food business, and a food business isn't going to want me to be on their property. So.
Can you share some of your competitive advantage in the market?
I'm sorry?
If you have any competitive advantage in the market?
Competitive advantage. I don't. Maybe I do. I don't know. I make everything, I've been told that, so I'm pretty close to McDonald's, and my prices are a little bit higher than McDonald's, but, I've been told that people come to me just because it's good food, I guess. You can go to McDonald's and get a hamburger and, be really unhappy with yourself, or go to my place and get, a turkey BLT, this is an actual quote from someone that they were going to go to McDonald's and he didn't want to be unhappy with himself and he came to me instead, so I was pretty excited. So I have a feeling that that's what a lot of people think. And I think not only the food side of it, I'm lucky because I'm an alum, so a lot of people come just to show their support for UD and me being an alum, which is cool. I think if I was just some 40-year-old woman who just started it out of nowhere, I wouldn't get as much support. At least not as quickly as I did. But that's just what I think based on my customers and stuff like that. I also have more, my sandwiches, I don't think you'd be able to find anywhere else except for 3 or 4, out of 15 or so, which is cool. You don't see anywhere else on Main Street or otherwise with a mac and cheese steak or any place with apple slaw. So I think that also adds into the competitive advantage. Yes.
You said that you didn't have a lot of experience working in a restaurant or anything, so I'm just curious, did you have anyone as a mentor or anyone helping you design your menu and build up your food cart?
I did the whole menu mostly by myself. My dad kind of helped me, and he doesn't have any more food experience than I do. But my boyfriend, or my now boyfriend, who was not my boyfriend at the time, owned a restaurant on Main Street, so he helped me out a lot and sort of gave me a lot of advice to as to what to do and stuff like that, which is cool because I had never, honestly, before I opened, I had never even worked a grill before. I sort of just did this thinking I would jump into it and learn how to do it, which is what I did, but I was really naive back then, thinking it was just going to work out. I could have totally fallen on my face. But yeah, having a mentor totally helps because I don't know what I would do if I didn't, there's just so many questions that you have, and you can Google them all you want, but you never get the answer that you're really looking for. So it's really nice to have a person that you can call, whether he's my boyfriend or not. It's just really nice to have someone that knows what the deal is with the food industry and stuff like that. Yes.
Why did you choose food?
Why did I choose food? I had never had any other job that wasn't in the food industry. Other than I worked at a pool once, but other than that, I had never had a job that wasn't in the food industry. And I did cook, I guess, for fun all the time. Like, that's all I did. Me and my roommates, junior and senior year, we would always have like family dinners, and we'd come up with like something, and I would cook, or I was usually the one cooking. So that's sort of how it all started. I got to like test all my recipes out on everyone, and one of my roommates was vegetarian, so she got to try all my vegetarian stuff. So it was fun. I mean, that's I just really like food and like being able to put things together. I don't really have a ton of experience in like anything else, which sounds really sad. Anyway, moving on. Yes.
Is there a lot of wasted food at the end of the day, and if so, what do you usually do with it?
My biggest waste is bread. If I had more storage space, which is another reason why I want to move up, I guess, in the food truck world, I could freeze, because bread freezes really well if you thaw it and use it relatively quickly. But since I don't really have a ton of freezer space, that's like my biggest waste. Luckily, it doesn't cost I spend like $10-ish a day on bread, which is not a ton. Sometimes I use it all, and sometimes I don't. But I'm trying to think. Most stuff is okay. Like, I use a lot of deli meat, like ham and turkey, and I slice that all myself. Like, I have a slicer, and I buy everything in bulk. So that stuff lasts like a couple days, and I do it in small increments. So I'll slice like 2 pounds of turkey, and like within 2 days that's gone. So I know like that's, and if it lasts any longer than 3 or so days, I toss it. And same thing I do pulled pork. Vegetables don't last as long, especially if you leave them whole. Like, I do a sandwich with zucchini, red peppers, onions, and mushrooms. So if I leave everything whole and I cut it like sort of made to order and grill it up real fast, everything lasts a lot longer. The downside to that is if 5 people come up during the day, then I have to spend more time like cutting and preparing it. But on the flip side, if I cut everything at the beginning of the day and I grill it up and I put it in like a steam pan or a steam table, and then it breaks down a lot faster because it's kind of in oil and its own juices and stuff like that. So vegetables, luckily, are not that expensive. So even though that's a big part of waste, I don't really lose a lot of money there. And waste is a tax write-off. Not that I don't really have a ton of waste anyway, but that's the biggest thing. And then others, like if something gets dropped, or there have been a few times not a few times, but one major time where I got to work in the morning and my fridge was propped open, like something must have fallen, and it was after a whole weekend where I didn't work, or a whole 2 days, and the fridge temperature was at like 60, which is in the danger zone. So I had to throw every single thing out of my fridge, which was really upsetting because it was like $200+ worth of food, like cheese and bacon and all that kind of stuff. So stuff like that really sucks, but it's part of the business. So it's all built into prices.
Where do you get it from?
I used to use Cisco, which is like a major, you probably see the Cisco trucks driving. Now I use Pro Foods, which is local, and I get bulk food from there, and then I use a farmer's market for veggies and BJ's for everything else. Woo!